Hello, everyone, and I'd like to welcome myself back to the stream. aReNGee is here. Unfortunately, Neon has prior engagements today and will not be able to finish out the cast, but I will be joining Lights Out Ace back in the casting booth, and we're going to finish off this tournament for you guys. So we got our results. LocoPojo took it 2-0 over Rewind, which brings us down to our final four. We are following our losers bracket action with KampfKrote, who we just watched win, taking on LocoPojo, and they're already hopping into it. So let's get down into that match.
All right, we got a real token-heavy deck against the Stone Scar mid-range, so I think the onus is going to be on Kampf to start beating down before Loco can go crazy with all of his rallies and stand-togethers.
Yep. I think it should be an interesting match for us here. I'm just trying to get in our lovely hand cam as always. There we go.
So Kampf is leading us off, and he has a good hand with a Vara's Favor to kill the first unit that Loco plays.
Which will probably be the initiate, right? You imagine?
Oh yeah, it always feels great when you get to favor that.
Oh no, he decides to
No,
go
but
for
it's a couple of Grenadin, which is fine. You're still going to kill that. You're not as excited about it.
I imagine
Yep.
this Statuary Maiden is going to play a pretty important role in this matchup if he can find some kind of mass removal spell like a Plague. Getting all those cudgels should be able to put the game away pretty quickly.
Well, the only worry is that if he plays it straight away on turn 4, it's going to get Desert Marshal immediately. So we'll see if he waits until turn 5 to play that.
Along with the torch, right? So that he can get immediate value out of it.
Yeah, if you play it on turn 5, you can mate it and then immediately torch and get a cudgel right away before that Marshal can come down in silence.
As you cannot ambush in response to spells.
Yeah, correct. You can only ambush in response to attacks or at end of turn. They do not work the same way that fast spells do. And he is running it out turn 4, so that's unfortunately going to run right into that Desert Marshal. The Fun Police.
Where? Oh, I see. We have some hand desyncing. I wondered where the Desert Marshal went, but it went onto the battlefield. Our hand cam is a little bit ahead of our live look-in at the moment.
So even though it's silenced and isn't going to be creating any cudgels, the Maiden is still doing some fine work just as a 2/4 blocker. None of Loco's units are able to attack through that.
Yeah, and his
So
hand.
hopefully it can hold the fort until this Infernal Tyrant comes down and starts gaining Kampf a bunch of life.
Well, LocoPojo's hand. Oh, that's certainly a good draw to boost up his hand. But before that, it was looking sort of mediocre. With only that 7 cost Claw the First Dragon in hand, which it's pretty sweet and it'll push through that Statuary Maiden, but he wasn't that close to casting it. And this Infernal Tyrant should slow down his offensive pretty well.
Ooh, unfortunately, it's going to expose that Statuary Maiden to Torch, though.
Didn't go for it.
But Loco doesn't use it. Interesting. Perhaps he's looking to get up to 8 power so that he can use the Claw the First Dragon plus Torch to kill the Infernal Tyrant.
Makes sense. Or he could just be saving 7 power to take it out with the Claw, and then be able to get additional value out of the attack since it won't trade with it.
That too. So Kampf's best chance of making some headway here might be this Cabal Countess. Once it's ultimated into a 6 strength quick draw, it'll take quite a few blockers to get rid of it.
LocoPojo finds the 8th power though, and if he does go for the Claw plus Torch play, it's going to be tough for Kampf to stand against all of these 3/3s.
Oh, he's blocking with his Cabal Countess. I would have thought he would have saved that to start attacking with. But I guess he wants to preserve some health. And here comes that Torch.
Interesting that he goes for the Torch instead of the Claw there. I wouldn't have minded a post-combat Claw taking out the Infernal Tyrant. Yeah, it gains him a bunch of life, but you put those 4 1/1s into play where they can immediately threaten your opponent on the next turn. But
that's true, and they'd be at least 3/3s due to the 8 power and
it looks like it's going to work out okay since Kampf drew and played that 4/4, which is going to get taken out by the Claw, giving him his guys anyway, and clearing the way in order to get his 2/2. Oh, interesting. He had a an Initiate of the Sands that was giving him that 8th power. So with that getting blocked, he did lose that.
Ah, interestingly, he did get a humbug here though, so there's some evasion from Loco's side. He'd be able to start getting through a couple points in the air.
And Stonescar Maiden was a fantastic draw since it shuts down the entombs on 2 of his guys, the Ticking Grenadin and the Slumbering Stone there. Although we're gonna see Sanctuary Priest do some work in the trades.
Recently buffed to get an extra point of health.
Death Strike not looking so good against all those tokens out there. I feel like Kampf is certainly on the back foot here and may not be around, may not be with us too much longer after this attack.
He probably death strikes the humbug, and then he can take out 3 units, but then he's still taking 18 damage. It looks like. Yeah, I think that Kampf is just dead right here.
Math checks out. Okay, and as we see on the preview hand cam, the portraits have already exploded. So we'll watch the carnage ensue. But it looks like we are going to game 2 with LocoPojo up a game.
So Kampf doesn't have too many ways to keep these swarms in check. He has 3 copies of Plague, but other than that, he is packed to the brim with single target removal, which is somewhat ineffective here.
Yeah, he's really going to be relying on, I think, establishing some of his better cards here. He's only got the single Furnace Mage in the matchup, which will be it should do some good work against the variety of relics in LocoPojo's deck. But he really wants to go to the skies here. Wants to get his Umbran Reapers out. Probably wants to bring in Soulfire Drakes and maybe get that Overwhelm Champion of Chaos in. If he wants to be able to push through the damage. Push the damage through that army of tokens that LocoPojo is bringing. I think he needs to go up, go for the evasive units.
So from LocoPojo's side, then, do you think that he wants to switch into sort of the go big plan with his sideboarded Steward of Prophecy, Copper Hall Elites, and Icaria?
I don't think so. I think that if you switch into the single target plan, you're moving more into KampfKrote's game plan. He's got, the Death Strikes are very clunky when they're taking out a 1/1 Grenadin that you got as part of another card, Assembly Line, Grenadin Drone, whatever. The Copper Hall Elites are something to think about. They're bigger than a lot of the threats that are there, especially when they're buffed up, and they do have that Aegis. Um, but I think that for the moment you stick with what's working. The Overwhelm plan was pretty good, and I think that he sticks that. If he had more great Parliaments in the sideboard, I think you bring those in for sure. But for the moment, stick with the main deck for me from LocoPojo's side.
Yeah, I agree. I think the onus is really on Kampf to try and break serve here. He has to be as aggressive as possible and maybe do some light disruption with the Furnace Mages and the Sabotages.
I think you bring in the second vault though, for sure, or the third vault actually, because when Stonescar midrange does well, it's in the grindy matchup. So bringing in an extra grindy card to help you out there might be a good choice. I have to say though, I've been really impressed with this Claw the First Dragon. It looks like such a silly LocoPojo card, but it's been doing a ton of work in these matchups.
Yeah, I've been very impressed. He got a couple of health off a Sanctuary Priest and got a Humbug to attack in the skies that last game. Against Sir Rhino, he got 3 Frontier Jitos and threatened lethal attacks out of nowhere.
Okay, it looks like we're going back into the game here, so we're going to be switching over to game 2 of Kampf versus LocoPojo, with LocoPojo up a game in the losers bracket round 4. Now this is the final best of 3 match, so if Kampf loses this game, he's going home.
Yep, the loser here will get 4th place. All right, and Kampf does have the play, which is step 1, establish a clock.
That hand was not step 1 though, so an easy mulligan for him. Oh, and he finds the Plague, a very important card for controlling in this matchup. But LocoPojo has so many different token generators that he's going to be hard pressed to find the best time to fire it off.
Yeah, well, I think that Plague is going to find some good targets in this assembly line on turn 3.
And with an Instigator in play, that's going to be a lot of damage on LocoPojo. And if he happens to, if Kampf happens to wait long enough in order to catch both assembly lines, It's oh, and he draws the Sabotage to pick out the other one. Interesting. So it looks like LocoPojo is going to be on mostly air, and if Comp ever gets up to that Infernal Tyrant, it could do some serious work.
Oh, Kampf does not attack. He's waiting till next turn to use that plague. He saw the assembly line. He knows Loco is going to play it, and he's going to smash him for 8 damage on his turn.
Well, he's certainly rewarded for his patience here, as LocoPojo decides not to go with the Amber Acolyte play and just plays right into that plague there. Um, this is a pretty good swing for Comp. This is certainly what he needs if he's going to win this matchup. This kind of initiative.
Yeah, a 2-for-1 and 5 damage is a good place to start.
Stand Together is drawn by LocoPojo. A bit too late to save the last set of Grenadin, but possibly just in time to save these, as Conf does not have another plague in hand to pick them all off.
Looks like he's going to attack, and if Loco triple blocks the Annihilate, is going to mess with the math. Yeah, so now Conf is ahead on health and is trying to push for damage.
Okay, the hand cams are a little desynced there. Obviously, you would have taken the Stand Together if it was available, but that was the card that LocoPojo drew this turn and opted not to play, instead playing the, I believe that's Amber Acolyte is what that art now is, rather than Nomad Healer. Amber Acolyte, in order to buff up his power count and potentially get that green source. I didn't actually see if he had a Justice source prior to that turn.
Yeah, so Conf is stuck using removal on it into the face of that Stand Together. Gets minorly blown out, but he's still ahead on health. If he draws a power for this Infernal Tyrant, then I think he's actually in the driver's seat right now.
I think he's still in a fair amount of trouble. Those 2/2 Grenadins are going to be able to hold off the Infernal Tyrant for fear of a triple block, and it's sort of stalemating a bit. But again, Conf needs to be the aggressor and push through, because in the later game, LocoPojo is just going to overwhelm him with all the units and then find a huge rally or something to take him out.
Yeah, he needs something like an Umbran Reaper quick. But even then, the Great Parliament is going to be an answer able to block that.
It looks like LocoPojo is thinking about holding on till 8 power in order to get the 2 Owls, which should end the game quite quickly, even in the face of a single Umbran Reaper. Although this Statuary Maiden could change the game a bit. If you get your Infernal Tyrant large enough, the health swings that are available could just be way too much to stop. But there's this little 1/1 Deadly Scorpion that's been holding it off this whole time, forcing it to stay on defense.
Yeah, we did see against Serrano that LocoPojo does not have any way in his deck to deal with a single large unit. So if Conf is able to accumulate several cudgels across all of his units, he will be able to dominate the board.
These draws are not favoring Conf, though, just drawing power after power while Loco finds some action.
Yeah, trading one unit for a 2-for-1 and a cudgel seems good, but with all of those tokens in play, he needs better trades than that.
These desync hand cams are getting me a little bit, as we can see that there is a rally in hand for LocoPojo, which threatens. Well, it doesn't exactly threaten lethal because of that huge Umbran or Infernal Tyrant, but in conjunction with this Owl could pretty quickly close out the game.
Ooh, Avara's favor to kill the deadly Scorpion and get a cudgel.
He attacked before playing the cudgel. I don't know if I like that. I think you just put your cudgel on your tyrant there and go to town.
Yeah, I like that. It eats an extra unit that way. But it looks like Loco is just chump blocking anyways. He can't afford to spend his whole team and strand that rally in his hand.
I guess the thought here from Loco is that he's already got a lethal Umbran Reaper or Infernal. I don't know why I want to keep calling that Umbran Reaper. A lethal Infernal Tyrant. Loco's priced into blocking, and he's going to get some more cudgels out of that to be able to build himself up 2 larger units to have on defense. But honestly, I think in this matchup, you're only going to die to something like that rally that Loco has. So I think just getting all the health that you can is better, and it prevents him from doing something like a crazy quad block that takes it out.
Well, if he quad blocks, then both of his units are going to be in the double-digit strength and health from those cudgels.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So
And we'll see what Loco decides to do here. In the end, he decides to just chump block with a 1-1.
and Kampf probably just plays out his cudgels on alternating units. Yep.
Spreading out the love.
And Loco plays his stand together.
Well, so now Loco has the power available to block and kill that 8/8 lifesteal Infernal Tyrant with only 2 units.
Hmm. Using that rally on the probably 2/2 Grenadins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh,
He's
a
gonna.
Champion of Chaos is a prime target for cudgels, as all of the damage except for one gets overwhelmed.
Well, Kampf certainly asked the question to Loco of, can you stop me? As he sends in all of his units, which could, if something bad happens, potentially leave him dead on the backswing. But he's got such a powerful fighting force that he's likely in pretty good shape, no matter how the blocks happen here. It looks like Loco's deciding to trade off all of his guys, which gives so many cudgels for that Champion of Chaos. It'll
Yeah, this is
certainly
going
be
to be
lethal.
the largest champion anyone has ever seen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 cudgels.
So I don't think Loco was playing any Vanquishes or anything. So he needs to end the game this turn with his opponent at 23 in order to take this out. And I can't think of any single card in his deck that does it.
He's not playing any cards that make 12 tokens.
I don't think there are any cards in the game that make 12 tokens until you get to some very absurd Parliament numbers. So he attacks, and well played is called, and it looks like that enormous Champion of Chaos is going to take down LocoPojo. So Kampf got out to a good start, stumbled a bit, was able to stabilize with that Infernal Tyrant, and then eventually the cudgel advantage from Stone's Statuary Maiden just put him away. So
Yeah,
let's take a
Statuary Maiden is very good against tokens. More units dying equals more cudgels equals more bigger.
let's take a look at LocoPojo's list now, as they are now tied up 1-1. What does he have that he can bring in that we think will be useful?
Well, after that last game, seeing the way he struggled to deal with large targets, large individual ground units, Lumen Defender might actually be good. It's probably there for the Stone Scar Burn matchup, where gaining 5 health and having a blocker is very good. But I think even in this mid-range Stone Scar, Lumen Defender could be a problem.
It's certainly a possibility. The question is again if Conf ends up going with that Skies plan, he gets those Umbran Reapers and what have you getting in there. Um, he could find himself with these 1/5s that don't really advance his aggressive game plan and don't block in the air. It's possible that he might want to go to Steward of Prophecy instead of these Lumen Defenders in order to proactively take out these high cost units. Silencing an Umbran Reaper or an Infernal Tyrant before it comes down, or even a Statuary Maiden, is certainly a very powerful thing for LocoPojo to have access to.
That's very true, and you can even accelerate them out before those units can even drop using Initiate of the Sands to jump ahead on power.
Yeah. I think again the most important. I think the most important card of this matchup is Stand Together, as it is the counter to the most important card in Comp's deck, which is the Plague that he has there. If LocoPojo can find a big blowout turn like he did, or like he was almost able to last game with that Stand Together, he should be able to piece together the win with this just sheer power of Rally plus a pile of tokens.
Yeah, I think if Kampf has a less than stellar draw, he's certainly fundamentally disadvantaged against the long game of LocoPojo.
I have to wonder, do you think those Finest Hours are still in LocoPojo's deck? I suspect they are not.
Yeah, I would doubt it. His units don't brawl particularly well with the large Stone Scar units, and even if they could, most of them have deadly.
Okay. Well, it looks like we are going back to back into the match. So let me just try something quickly here. I'm going to see if I can get us on the faster perspective. In order,
LocoPojo as the primary.
yes, in order to make us less, um, a little bit less awkward for the viewers and myself, as I am constantly looking at this hand cam and trying to predict what happened turns later.
Yeah, it gets kind of confusing when Vault of the Praxis is drawing a couple cards per turn.
700, 750. I should probably know these numbers by now by heart, but every stream is slightly different. So there we go. Okay, we got ourselves another hand cam. Slightly too wide of a hand cam still.
The hand cam lives. That's what's important.
Yes. Oops. No, that's the wrong number to change.
All right, so Kampf has gotten off to a pretty aggressive start here. He's got 2 Argent Instigators and a Champion, and he's just wrecking him with this damage from the Argent Instigators whenever he uses a removal spell, plus the Overwhelm Deadly of the Champion of Chaos.
Oh, I came in. All right, well that didn't really work all that well. While I was fiddling with the hand cam, the match ended. LocoPojo never drew his second time sigil that he needed in order to actually participate in the match. Here we see those Copper Hall elites, and just a quick hand of instigators and champions just took him down.
Yeah, it turns out when you go Instigator into Champion into Instigator plus Torch, your opponent dies in a hurry.
Wow. All right. Well, LocoPojo is our 4th place finisher. And we will be now. Kampf advances to the losers finals, where he will be awaiting the loser of our next match, which is the winners bracket finals between Linevine and Toth.
Yeah, Kampf just continues his rampage here. Every time he's needed it, has been able to deliver an aggressive draw and just quickly punish his opponent with champions and Argent Instigators.
Yeah, we'll have to see how he does in the losers finals. Hopefully, he continues his rampage as you put it. But for the moment, we are going to go to a quick break, and then we will be back as soon as possible with Linevine versus Toth. Until then.